Well, welcome to Speaking of Horses. I'm your host, Wayne Williams, and we're ready to go right here with some of the great stories from the horse industry. So join us as we get ready to go Speaking of Horses right here on this station. Well, hey, welcome to Speaking of Horses, and today on this program we're going to talk about the Equus Film Festival. But we're going to talk about their tour stop in Arizona, and that's going to be held in Sedona, Arizona, which is up near Flagstaff. And backing this in Sedona is our guest today, Cheryl Casati. And Cheryl, welcome to the program.
Hi, Wayne. It's lovely talking with you.
Well, we're glad to have you join us. I mean, you come to us from a beautiful part of the world. And we're going to start out by just saying, how did you get involved in the Equus Film Festival, and more importantly, the tour stop coming up August 3rd and 4th in Sedona, Arizona?
Well, horses have been a part of my life since I was 4 years old. Even when I was in the military, I was still an equestrian coach, and I showed horses and trained them. But I've known Lisa since she started the Equus Film Festival International in New York City about 5 years ago. And we've talked almost every year, and she's tried to get me to go to that film festival. But being from New Jersey, been there, done that in New York.
Right. You've seen Manhattan, you know what that's all about, right?
Yeah, I keep looking for the trees, and if I have to go to Central Park to find a tree, I'm not real interested.
And all you want to do is count them, make sure they're all still there.
Yes. So this year, I just actually found out she does the short tours with the award-winning films around the United States, Canada, and Europe after the film festival. So I called her and I said, why don't you bring in the short tour here to Arizona? And she said, I don't know. When are you? And I said, oh.
So you were in right then, right?
I was just really, under the hammer there. It's like, okay, put up or shut up.
Yeah, I've done my volunteering in a roundabout way, but it's it's quite an undertaking, but it's also a great, shall we say, labor of love sometimes, because the equine films many times really don't get the screenings they deserve. There are more people who love these movies than maybe the powers that be realize, and it takes some of these film festivals to make it a part of this thing to really make it come together.
I think you're absolutely right, and it's very interesting. Horses always seem to touch people's hearts. You know the old saying that horses are poetry in motion? Mm-hmm. There's something about their beauty that reaches straight into most people and just enthralls them.
Well, it is. It's, horses have an uncanny and unique ability to get right inside a human being. Like I don't think like any other animal. They are just so intuitive. They're so almost a great ESP to know exactly what you're thinking, and they become so much a part of your thought process. It's probably the best human-animal bond available. If you bond with your horse, you are set for life, and you can really read each other.
That's actually true. As a kid, I can't tell you some of the hair-raising things I did, but it was very interesting. I always knew I was safe with my horses. And it doesn't surprise me that they're used in equine therapy now, because I came from a very abused background, although we had money, just the opposite of most. And the only reason I came out of there being reasonably normal was because I had the horses, and I spent lots of time with the horses, and they were my balancer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like, and it works. I have ridden a lot of parades, and you go on a parade route with your horse, and there's all of these scary things down the parade route: people, noisemakers, floats, and confetti and bands, and you name it. If you're riding down through there and you're worried about that's going to bother my horse and that's going to bother my horse, if you have this fear in you about that, your horse picks right up on it. Your horse is going to be afraid, period. If you're riding along saying, no problem, we're going by that, 9 times out of 10, you'll go right by that. Because the internal signal you're sending to the horse is there's nothing to worry about. And as long as they have some kind of bond with you, they just go with you because you have not put them in a compromising position, so they trust you, and they really get that feeling.
You're absolutely right, and I'll just share a short story with you. I had a big Hanoverian mare. She was 16.3, and she walked like this massive tiger. That was just her walk. And I had my son, who is disabled, lifted up on her. I had a side walker. And he could lead her around. He could do anything, but he'd never been on top of her. And I was standing at her head, and she turned around, and she stared up at my son. And when I asked her to walk, she took the tiniest, most careful steps. Didn't have to do anything. She took just these tiny, slow, careful steps the whole time he was on her.
Mm-hmm. They know. They know. And don't ask me to explain it, but they know. And I think it's wonderful. People that don't get a chance to get around horses and discover how perceptive they are missing it. They really are missing what that's all about because, they just, they've got a psyche that's hard to explain. So.
And I think that's what happens with the Equus Film Festival. The storytellers reach people's hearts with all these amazing true stories about horses.
Mm-hmm. See, it's not what Hollywood has depicted all these years. As a matter of fact, I have to interject this. My wife and I have been watching the new series on the Paramount station, that Yellowstone with Kevin Costner.
Yes, I've heard of it. I haven't watched it yet.
Well, all we're doing is counting all of the horse mistakes. Because
so in other words, I'm okay with not watching it.
Yeah, well, the storyline's one thing, but the mistakes made in what would be real with a horse and what Hollywood has depicted there is so different, And, they're breaking a wild Mustang, and the next scene he's in the trailer, haltered and tied, and it's just, there's so many of these things that we like to sit back and go, well, that had never happened. But anyway, that's the difference between, the Hollywood version and how it really works. And but when you get to the film festival, for Equus Film Festival, you're talking about people with a passion for horses that are making these films, not your run-of-the-mill Hollywood people who are producing the films and have to put the horses in as an addition and want to convert them to the Hollywood style rather than the real style. And the real story of horses and people and the things they've done is miraculous. And that's what you get a chance to see at the film festival.
That's exactly what you get a chance to see at the film festival. And you get to see a huge line across the whole spectrum of what horses bring, what they're going through. You mentioned Mustangs, what the Mustangs are going through. Mustangs are incredibly smart horses. I've ridden a couple of them, and they bond a little differently. I've had a lot of bonds with a lot of horses. I will say that the Mustangs bond like wild horses, and I don't mean that they're wild. I mean the herd depends on one another.
Yeah.
And they've had that since their foals. And when they form a bond, they form a bond.
Yeah, Go ahead. Now, I have heard it described that, they're a little tougher to form the bond with because of their upbringing in the wild. But once you have a bond with them, you have a bond. I've heard that.
And it's real different. It's real different than most domestic brought-up horses. And still, I've formed bonds, deep bonds, with all of my horses. But there's just a different quality to the Mustangs.
Yeah, there is. Hey, let's take a moment here before we run out of time and kind of review some of the films that are going to be screened on August 3rd and 4th there in Sedona.
Well, we have a lot of films, and really, I'm excited about this because the Sedona Film Festival group is too. The first 2 hours on Thursday at 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock are strictly kids' films, and the kids get in free. So we want to make sure everybody knows that. And we have a plethora of films. The Spotlight rescue series is Save the Havasupai horses, which tells the story of the horses that are the true story, that are working in Havasupai, Arizona, and the challenges and the basic abuse that they go through. But that's not one of the kids' films.
Yeah.
Okay? Wendy is a lovely children's film, and When the Dust Settles. We have The Wild Ponies of Chincoteague, and we also have The Edge, Their Last Ride.
Yeah.
And the Caravan film trailer, all the Queen's horses, all the wild horses. It's just a plethora of films. We have a film on the great Arabian horse that founded the Arabians breed in the United States. And I don't know if you're old enough to remember this, but his name was Basque.
I remember it, and actually when I was in New York last fall at the film festival, that is a Polish-made film, and I interviewed the producer of the film and a couple of representatives from the Polish consulate were there in New York, and I interviewed them on one of my shows.
Well, the interesting thing about Basque, I remember him from when I was a kid. I was just amazed. He was such a stunningly, breathtakingly beautiful horse.
Yeah, it's quite a history with the Arabians and him.
We have Golden Genes, Genes, and it's Healing with Horses is a documentary about hope, and The Horsepacker is an amazing film about a gentleman who works with horses.
Well, we're about out of time, but Cheryl, thank you. Now, how do they contact you about this Sedona tour stop of the Equus Film Festival? Be sure and contact Cheryl at 520-468-9066. The Sedona stop of the Film Festival. Well, that's our show. I'm your host, Wayne Williams. Speaking of horses, we'll be back next week with a brand new show. Or join us at speakingofhorses.com.